Hello, 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 Facebook. What's up, YouTube? Hello, everyone. I'm going to allow some time for you to come in and see that this live is happening right now as it was unannounced and um, will be extremely interesting, transparently interesting. Welcome. Welcome to you all that are watching. I see numbers are increasing throughout social media on both platforms. Thanks for joining. Thanks for having your notifications on. Thanks for seeing value in the content that is frequent on my page. Thank you for being here, for listening. And this conversation, as you saw the title at the top, I debated on how to deliver this message. And we'll see what ends up happening. But originally, it was going to be two separate messages that I was going to bring forward. So go ahead and share. I believe that we are in a time where we are inundated with a lot of social media and media that is full of a lot of extreme um, in intensity and a lot of emotions are being injected into us that affect the genuine emotion that we perhaps would have ordinarily. And so share this information. I do believe that we are in a time where clarity is needed, unity is needed, sound mind is needed. And I know that we share a lot of information a lot of times. And we obviously have the freedom to leverage this tool to connect and leverage this tool to get messages out and leverage this tool to connect with family and loved ones. And I want to make sure that we are using a lot of wisdom with what we have been blessed with this tool of social media. I consider it a blessing to be able to have this amazing tool here, especially in a time where our whole world has been changed over the past few months. Our whole world, for many people, may feel like it has been turned upside down. What they know to be normal and what they know to be a reality has seemed almost like walking through a movie. And some people are truly numb throughout this time. And I am sympathetic for anyone who has had any kind of a loss throughout this time that is still dealing with the unsurreal realities of what we face today, who are dealing with having to suppress a feeling or emotion because once again the media kind of injects you with what that emotion and feeling should be. So share the feed and get it out, and I'm going to work to bring forward a dialogue that I believe is necessary that we have. I wanted to make sure that I came with, and I've talked about what's going on obviously consistently, but just more directly. I can be very transparent and honest that when things happen like what's happening in our nation right now in America, I'm not always very quick to react or respond because I do know that um there's a lot of there's hidden agendas many times in certain things that's going on. And I really want to make sure that when I do speak, I'm not speaking from being emotionally entangled in doing what somebody else believes that I should do, or what I feel like I'm forced to do as a Black woman, or what I should say. I always want to be in a sound mind and making sure that I'm true to whatever it is that my response is or my stance is. And so the reality of it is that we are living in a very interesting time all the way around the board. And as a Black woman in this time, it is definitely interesting because we have come, I believe, we've made some strides. And I know it's not always announced, and I know it's not always talked about, and I know it's not always the conversation and the topic, but I believe that when you see the success stories of people of color who come from neighborhoods that you may be able to identify with, and you see the stories of people who've been able to triumph over the worst conditions, it has to inspire change. It has to give a bit of hope. It has to make you feel like you could believe that you too can do it. And I believe that that story was so important. And I believe the fact that we have a media outlet like what we have now to get those stories out brings hope and belief to people that they too can do it. And I don't apologize for that. I don't apologize for helping to create stories around the world, especially of men and women of color who are doing some things that maybe nobody thought would be possible to do. But I sympathize right now with where we are at a state of our nation, where we are right now in 2020, with all of the progress that we've made as a culture, as a people, as African Americans, to be in this position where on a sidewalk before billions of people, a man is fighting for his life and crying for his mother, as another human being believes that he has the right to take his life. I believe George Floyd's unfortunate murder was that ultimate thing that enough was enough. I believe that, yes, we've had protests before, and no, I'm not for the riots. No, I'm not for the violence. No, I think it's despicable to see Black businesses be vandalized because someone decided to express their frustration on vandalizing a building and looting. I'm not for any of it. I don't think one has anything to do with another. And I do believe that there's been a lot of instigation to pull out that rage. I believe a lot of it has been hidden agendas. I believe a lot of it was for ulterior motive. I believe that truly in my heart, that the vandalization that we're seeing on Black businesses is just ridiculous. And we have to make sure that we're not participating in that. Anybody that's connected to you, you got to make sure that your voice is heard right now, that they understand that we may not have all the answers. I don't believe no one person on this side of heaven has all the answers, but I believe that this is a time for us to come together and unite. I believe that everybody has a voice. I believe that this season that we have been in has totally evened out the playing field. The playing field for everybody to have a voice. Now is not the time to look to your leader or to your political person or to whoever you have put in a position in your life of authority to wait to see what they're going to do and what they're going to say. I believe right now, everybody needs to know that they are creative and they are powerful and they are important, and that you may be the mind that God chooses to use to spark an idea that could be the missing piece of the puzzle. I need for you to be empowered on today. And I know many times when you're looking at the social media and looking at media, it makes you furious and frustrated and sometimes afraid and unsure of who you are as Black men and Black women. And I know that there's some Indians that are standing with us, and there's some Mexicans that are standing with us, because really this problem is an American problem. And this is why you see all races of people who are standing. It's not black and white no more. That's not what this fight is about. That's not what this is about. It's not a black and white thing this time, y'all. It's not. Yes, we are the ones that are at large being affected and have been affected. If you grew up African American, you were affected. If you grew up with an African American father, an African American brother, if you have African American sons, if you're a woman that's African American, if your husbands you are affected. And so obviously, not just what we're dealing with seeing George Floyd and the many others that were not recorded, whose lives you did not see so violently taken on camera. Not only are we dealing with that, we're dealing with worlds that feel like they're turned upside down. We're dealing with people who may have not have been able to work for a long time. We're dealing with unemployment being at an all-time high. We're dealing with some people who have lost loved ones, whether it be from police brutality and murder, whether it be from foolish acts of violence in our communities. Perhaps that we as a community have inflicted on one another as a whole, or whether it be from COVID-19. People are at a loss for words, people are at a loss for normalcy, and the frustration is at an all-time high. The frustration is at an all-time high. And I believe that it's important that we empathize with what we see going on right now. Maybe we wouldn't do it the same way because you're educated enough to know not to do that, or because you have resources, or because you've been exposed to more. But everybody will not express their emotion, their frustration, and their anger the same way, because people are tired. They're tired. We're not dealing with a black and white situation right now. Right now, we're dealing with more of a right and wrong situation. We're dealing with a human situation right now. We're dealing with a systemic situation that was purposely injected to oppress a powerful culture. And we have to take responsibility individually and collectively for what this looks like on the other side. And we have to understand that we have more power than we know. And we must realize that where we are united, we will always be more powerful. This is the perfect time in history. This is the perfect time in history. And I believe that God has set it so. He has set it up the way so that this is the perfect time in history for a supernatural shift to be made. We're exposed to more. The world is at our fingertips, y'all. People have been oppressed even before George Floyd, even before police brutality, even before. They have been oppressed because of what was put into their mind and the way that they think. And they have been oppressed for generations due to lack and poverty and cycles that are repeated throughout the generations. And so a man who is full of great talents and ideas has been put in environments where he feels that he is limited in every area of his life. Therefore, he produces limitations in his household, amongst his family, and he feels broken. And then that same ideology is passed on to his sons. And they feel like the only way out is to go to the street. Maybe the father felt broken and he didn't do much. And because the father maybe felt like he did all that he could do. And now the son, seeing the way they lived, maybe growing up in impoverished neighborhoods and feeling poor, decided that that wasn't going to happen for his family. But because he felt that he didn't have what it took, he decided to take it to the streets. He decided to have the things that he began to be exposed by. And now his sons are seeing the same thing, and they want to, maybe now at the point that the father has a son and the son grows up, he knows that his decisions perhaps weren't right. And he doesn't want the son to make the same mistakes, but the son wants what he sees. And so we're dealing with something that's systemic. And what I think about what's going on right now, hence the title being Black Wall Street, I remember in the history books in times where Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they were, I mean, we are so powerful and creative as a people. We were never who this picture is being painted of us to be. And when you turn inward and you spend time before the king and you develop a relationship, and I'm not talking about control religion, but I'm talking about a relationship that's so deep where you are so sensitive to the Holy Spirit that you know that you are chosen by God. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to surround yourself differently. You begin to make bigger impact. And I believe that we're in such an interesting time right now where It's time to rise like never before. I believe that people are going to rise from this like never before, but violence is not the way. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, during that time, Black Wall Street was burned down by the oppressors. They came in because they saw the power, they saw the unity, they saw, blacks and African Americans rising up in ways that they didn't expect after the laws had been passed and the Jim Crow laws and all of the systemic things that have happened. They saw unity, they saw power, and they could not believe after such a short amount of time that their plan was failing. And so they came in to destroy 99 years ago. And here where we are today. Where we are nearly a century later, we have actless just crimes and violence. Obviously, what happened to George Floyd is not right. Obviously, it was murder right before our eyes. Obviously, the other cops who kneeled on this man back, all should be penalized for the murder. The cop who stood by and just watched, who could possibly have that much fear in them? You call that fear? That wasn't fear. This man is in handcuffs. That wasn't fear. But is the solution to vandalize the same black businesses that's helping people to be employed? That's allowing another black little boy to be fed? That's keeping him off the street because he wants a pair of Jordans and his mom is working just to buy him a pair of Jordans so that he doesn't see going to the street as another route, is vandalizing the black homes and businesses the way to go and tearing up the city? What can we do from that? And I get that it's been instigated. I truly believe that. You saw the videos of the cops who were breaking the windows, creating this. But is that all that it takes for us to fold as a whole? We got to do better now that we know. And if you participated in any of that, which I pray that you did not, I pray that you did not, go before God, repent, because this is more spiritual than it's anything else. No, we can't just pray and do nothing. That's just like the word of God telling us faith without works is dead. We can't get up off our knees after we finish praying and say, okay, that's it, because we decided to go before the king and bow before the king. No, we have to speak out. We will not be silenced. Some people may have decided to be silent throughout this time. As you guys may have seen on social media, on Instagram specifically, the black posts that were popped up. Some feel like it's time to stand, while others feel like it's time to take a knee and bow to the king. Some feel like it's time to speak, while others feel like it's time to be silent. Either way, I know that it's not time to be violent. Some say support black businesses, while others say don't spend a dollar. I know what my call and my purpose is. It's global empowerment and economics. And when I think about Black Wall Street and I think about what we are right now, the reason I debated on whether or not this conversation should be 2 or 1 is because how do you separate what we're dealing with right now without understanding that we need our own economy? We need our own economy. We can't point the finger at who decides to be silent and put black pictures up and say you shouldn't do that. No, we should do whatever it is that God is telling us to do and whatever we're called to do in the areas that we need to do it. And some people may be at more rage right now because you just started doing something. Meanwhile, others of us have been doing it for the last 10 years. See, here's what I know. God has called me to impact nations and generations, and you can go back 10 years and hear the same message. Because I believe that God has prepared us for what he has prepared us for. And I believe that he has called and chosen us for a time such as this, to rise up and be a voice, a familiar voice to many, to run into safety. God has provided a solution even before the calamity. And he told us in his word. He told us in his word, yes, do your part. Yes, whatever that may be, whether it be protesting, whether it be voting, whether it be speaking out, whether it be rallying up, whether it be masterminds, whether it be going into ministries and just going before God to find out what your role is. But the word of God told us to be ye not consumed with the things of this world. Why? Because he has already overcome them. That means he has already provided the answer. But he said, be transformed. What did he say? 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 Be transformed throughout this time. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, by the renewing of your mind, by the renewing of your mind, by the renewing of your mind. If the oppressors were willing to wait generations to break down this powerful culture, this powerful heritage, this powerful people, what are you willing to do now that's going to impact the next generation? What are you willing to do now that's going to impact the next generation? What are you willing to consistently do now that's going to impact generations and generations and generations to come? We got to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. I don't know your role. I don't have all the answers. But what I'm clear on is that God has been preparing us for this victory that we're going into. I began to sit back and I was thinking, because I listen and I don't respond as quickly as some people may feel like I should respond, because I'm not looking at surface. I see a lot. I see the unseen and I hear the unheard. So I'm seeing past the distractions, the political agendas, the election year, the rhetoric. And I'm sensitive to seeing. I was like, wow, we're a very intelligent people. And for those of you who have done your due diligence to understand the Jim Crow laws and the systemic issues that have been embedded into our policies in America, which is why somebody could do something so inhumane to another human because they don't see them as human. They still believe that they are only a percentage of a human. The sickness, the idea. But because the impact of 3-4 generations ago is still living today, what do we do now? How do we tap into what was done so that we can go further? Because none of the work that those that have come before us is in vain. When I think about Black Wall Street, I believe that they knew that that was so powerful. We had our own everything. So there was no need for permission. So we can't go backwards in 2020 and start asking for permission. What are you asking oppressors for? Okay, if you have gotten a calling on your life to go into politics so that you can be a part of that, if you've gotten a calling on your life to go into armed forces so that you can eradicate some of the stuff that's going on, let's be clear on that. Because the oppressors were willing to wait generations to get done what they needed to get done. How will your actions today impact the next generations to come? How will you make sure that your family and your household is in a better position? I believe it started in the school systems. There are many people that look at the business models that I chose, and I thank God for seeing the unseen and hearing the unheard, because had it not been for that, I would have gotten, not just by the educational system, but by my own people who, when I stepped out on faith to do things that were uncommon, begged me to stay back, begged me not to go forward, begged me not to take the risk, begged me not to take the chances. And not only did they do that, when I did step out on faith and took risk and chances, many times it was family and loved ones that were the ones telling others to not support it. We have to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Is it a process? Any change is a process. But if we will begin now to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, and we will begin now to understand that and start to think differently. When I think, I think kingdom, 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 and every kingdom has an economy. Somebody else may be called to another part. Somebody else may be called to something else, and this one may be called, and all of them are important. But I know that every kingdom has an economy. If you really want change, you're going to need some money. There have been amazing people that we could have gotten into office, but because they lacked the finances and resources to be a voice on the inside, it never happened. And it's not that their opponents were any better, but if they had the resources and if they had the funding, until you realize that that's important, maybe you never do anything. This is a time right now where we have the world at our fingertips. What do you do with that power? Are you being consumed by the things of this world, scrolling on social media? Or are you finding communities to connect to? Are you rising to make decisions to be a part of thought groups and think tanks and masterminds and wealth communities? You, not your leaders, not your cousin, not this one, not that one. You. How are you transformed? Being transformed and renewing your mind. So I wanted to come, and I know this conversation wasn't fully economics, and I know the title was Black Wall Street, but we can't be the ones tearing down our own stuff. We can't be the ones rioting and vandalizing and robbing in the name of George Floyd, in the name of justice, in the name of equality. We can't do that. We can't be the ones looking to buy the stuff that's been stolen and think we're going to still be blessed either. We can't do that. We can't do that and think that God is going to, this is a spiritual warfare. I don't hear a lot of talk about it, but I can tell you right now that it is. I can tell you right now that it is. This is a spiritual warfare. God has been preparing us for this. And you are protected and covered in it. For those of you that are believers, God has been showing me 316. I just kept seeing 316, 316, 316 all May long, 316. And I was like, okay, now I don't believe in coincidences. And all I kept quoting was the word of God. For God so loved the world. For God so loved the world. He sees what's going on right now. He knew that it would happen. But for God so loves the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. For God so loved the world. Now is our time to make sure that we're doing our part. We're rising and we're standing. We're bowing and we're kneeling. We're speaking, and some may decide to be silent just to get a moment of clarity in their mind for the sake of peace. This is a time of truth. Your actions, not the actions of others, but we must decide what it is that we are going to do. What I've decided to do and to continue to do is to empower our communities, to help to position people of economic empowerment, because it's the call that's on my life and it did not just start. Some people that's already been on a mission, you're looking for what else to do. And that's great, but don't you stop doing what you were called to do, because God has prepared you and he called you and he chose you to position you for where you are right now. Some people have not maybe did much. And so now they're ready to do something. And that's important. But don't you get off your post and feel like you're supposed to run this way or that way to figure it out. Don't stop. Do more. Do more. God bless you guys, and I love and appreciate you all. And economic empowerment. Economic empowerment. We have infiltrated a space that was never designed for us to be in. We've infiltrated a hidden wealth secret that they didn't feel like we would be able to afford. And technology and innovation has been a benefactor for us to participate in a $6.7 trillion daily market, even in the midst of what's going on right now in our world. We have opportunity. But if our minds are not transformed and renewed, we fear everything as a people. You fear what you don't understand. You can't fear what you don't understand because the word told us to lean not on our own understanding. This is not about what you understand. If God is going to take you to a new height, how do you think you go into it understanding everything? Do you want to understand it? Join us so that you can learn how you can turn pennies into dollars from your cell phone, dollars into hundreds and hundreds into thousands from your phone. Learn by joining us. You earn and learn at the same time. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid for your future. Don't be afraid for your legacy. Don't be afraid for your last name. This is the time to have courage and boldness and to rise up in it. This is the time to make those decisions while you still have a chance. And don't assume that the opportunity will always be here and always be available. It's time to rise up. It's time to make a difference for your family. It's time to be transformed by renewing your mind, by getting around people who speak life and not death and nonsense. It's time. There is no more go back to normal, y'all. There is no more go back to normal. This is the time to move. It doesn't matter what he think. It doesn't matter what she think. Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? They might not think about this, but you do think. Why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? Whoever's sharing this with you, if they're a business partner of mine, we're about global economics. We impact nations and generations around the world. I'm the founder of this company, Rich University. Why rich? Because I wanted our people to be comfortable with the idea of being rich. Not rich just in finances, but in every area of your life. The word rich means more than money for us. But you need some economics. You need some money. You need wealth. And so I challenge you to get back with them. Icy, stop. Icy, come here, Icy. Come here, Icy. Come here, Icy. Here you go. Come here. Here you go. It's about being royalty. Come here, Icy. Here you go, Icy. Here you go. Inspirational, courageous, and humble. Get in a position now. Partner with us. There's room for you. There's room for you. Decide that you deserve it. So God bless you, and we'll see you soon.